My name is Jennifer Scanlon. I'm the executive director at JRACraft. Um, and we're delighted to have you with us tonight.
Thanks, Jennifer. I really appreciate it. And I'm honored to receive this award. And thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to work with you over the last couple of months and get to know you more and just appreciate the space that you create for artists. So thank you. Um, I also want to thank everybody out there that supports this incredible organization and perhaps offers support for this particular award. Um, I do want to just say that, the financial support that comes with this award is incredibly impactful. For me personally, it's been what has allowed me to be on this amazing residency tour, which is like the greatest gift of my life. So I'm right here, as Jennifer mentioned, at Sculpture Space in Utica. And that wouldn't have been possible without, this, financial support. And additionally to financial, it's just such a incredible validation as an artist to receive an award. I think this is a precarious path we're all on as artists. It's tough. It's, unclear. It has a lot of ups and downs, and just to receive validation and recognition is echoes. So thank you for that. And also thank you to the jurors, Andrew Page, Shay Rhodes, and I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous, so I'm blanking on Brandy Clark, who selected my work this year. And the courage I think that takes to offer space for diverse voices at this particular moment in time. As a Palestinian-American person, I am, honored to carry, through my process and deeply personal experience, this glass tradition and craft, especially at this moment when I feel, and maybe many of you feel that, this, Jennifer touched on, freedom of expression right now in our country being questioned, the foundation of, our First Amendment rights to express ourselves as a threat. And these institutions like the Smithsonian, who is facing some editing around a recent exhibition looking at slavery, or even, different leadership at the Kennedy Center. So as artists and as institutions, and I really feel the last almost 2 years now have been a question of, the role of artists at this time, and what do we have to offer. And I think through a lot of reflection and a lot of incredible, courageous people, I'm being inspired to use the voice and opportunities to think deeply about humanity and what that looks like for all of us. And though I am terrified right now at this very moment to be in front of you all, I know that it is it and a vital moment for us to gather together as a community. And here we are, we're in this space together. We can't see each other, but you could look at the attendees list and see that here we are all together in this space. And there's something that's brought us together here. There's a commonality. And I hope we can continue to build on our common humanity. So with that, I'll just start my just start sharing a little bit about my work. I'll begin by just talking about like an early experience I had. I'll share a couple of a little bit about my life and path as a committed glassmaker, and a couple of projects I've worked on. There's many more, but I've tried to limit it. And then Jennifer and I will have a little conversation, hopefully, about what is happening here in the studio, and then we'll open it up to some Q&A or some, questions, which you can submit, I believe, in the Q&A section on your screen. So if anything comes up, put it in there, and I'm really love to hear from everybody, and we'll do our best to answer them. So, okay, let me do some technical zooming stuff where I will now share my screen. Okay, well, I guess I think for so many artists, there's like a moment, or there's a kind of really early experience. And we here at Utica, all my peers at Sculpture Space, we talked about those early moments. And I want to share this one with you because I think, it happened. And then, what's amazing about art is it unveils itself to you, as you go through your life and throughout time. So this was just this cosmic moment of magic, very simple. It was a winter sun kind of set passing through our kitchen window, and passing through like a glass of water. And what happened was it made this projection on the countertop. And in that was this like shadow and light, and this moving image, and something about that really captivated me. And now that I think about it, it revealed something that perhaps glass offers this ability to see something beyond our own perspective, just a little bit farther than what we can perceive in ourselves. And that has really shaped the way that I've approached this material. So that little story I wanted to share. I grew up, as Jennifer mentioned, in Toledo, Ohio. Here it is from the lens of satellite, which is an incredible place to grow up because for many reasons, but one of them is it has such a robust glass industry. Libby Glass is there, which is a producer of much of the vessels we drink from in our daily lives are made here at Libby Glass with the automated bottle blowing machine. So the technology of glass blowing remained pretty much unchanged from the invention of the blowpipe, which occurred in 50 BCE in the Palestinian-Syrian region. So this technology of blowing breath into a bubble happened there. And then the next major evolution occurred here in Toledo, which is wild. So was I destined to be a glassmaker, or did it choose me? I'm not sure. But Toledo. Another major industry is Johns Manville, who produces building materials and insulation. They actually were contributors to the early studio glass movement. They provided some marbles. So again, all these things intersect. Also, there's a glass manufacturing company, Pilkington, which produces float glass. And that is used in, our architecture, how we construct our spaces. And also they offered a residency program, which I'll share a little bit more about my project with them later. But the Toledo Museum of Art, that was something I think so many Toledoans might feel this way. It was a museum we grew up going to. It felt like it was ours. It belonged to us, and I was no different. What was incredible was, in fact, the studio glass movement that I think so many people out there that love glass might know this history began here in Toledo, with Harvey Littleton and Dominic Labino's work, their early workshop. Sorry, something just changed on my screen. So that was the first time glass was put directly in the hands of artists, and artists kind of got to express themselves through this material. And that happened right there in Toledo. Here's a photo of some of the early work in the first workshop, photograph of the first workshop. And that is, in fact, where I learned to blow glass years later. And part of that was because my mother is an artist, and I got to grow up seeing things be made and made from material. She's a sculptor, a stone sculptor. And what that meant for me was I would see raw material be able to be transformed into these things, incredible sculpture, and then put back into the world. And for a young person, that shaped something really profound. Um, both of my parents were great advocates and supporters of the arts. And when I was I don't know, maybe this was eight or nine around that time with the light, Dale Chihuly came to town and I got to meet him. I made construction paper models of all of his like artwork, so I was pretty excited about it as a kid. And we got to hang out. I met Lino Tagliapietra at that time and Martin Blank, which was his gaffer, who eventually, in some kind of cosmic way, I ended up working for in Seattle, which was the next place I moved to continue to pursue this material. So I worked and lived out in Seattle for many years and was a production glassmaker. I learned a lot of technique and process, but at that same time, I was really, wanted to express my ideas. And as much technical a skill I was building, I was also trying to translate that into some of the things I was interested in. So some of this is my really early work. This is a collaboration with Adam Sansenbacher, who is a Toledo-based artist and really incredible maker. These are called voxelscapes. I had moved to a new landscape and really thinking about place, location, and how do we know these places? Is it through our lived physical experience or is it mediated through screens? So a voxel actually means a three-dimensional pixel. So even at this really early age, I was deeply interested in mapping technologies and understanding our location and landscape. These are sand cast objects that are cut and polished and then also laminated with sheets of Pilkington. Here's another set, kind of interested in that digital form. These are continuations of that project in a different way. These are sand cast blown objects that are mirrorized on their interior. And then they are, the white pieces are sort of facsimiles, like pressed heat-formed plastic, acrylic sheets. Kind of questioning what's real, what's original, and sort of how do we know things? And let's see, this is not advancing. Okay. I also was working on this other series. I made this piece when I took a workshop in Czech Republic with Charlie Perriott, amazing person, kind of right-hand man of Dale Chihuly, and got to go visit a bunch of glass factories in Czech. I was really captured by casting at that time, the way light could be held inside of a space and create volume, even when something was pretty, thin. And I was thinking about resources and water. I kind of have this ongoing fascination with water. It'll come up later. But these, again, looking at Google Maps, I was looking at pools, swimming pools, and thinking about resource equity and sort of how these things are distributed. And another pool, these are called pools of desire. I laminated this to a piece of Pilkington float glass as well. So combining casting and lamination. And then I kind of returned to that origin story of this little glass on a table and and explore that a little bit further. I wanted to create that moment of awe. And at the time I was working in Seattle, and all of these objects of glass were so precious and sort of untouchable. And, these, yeah, just very precious objects. And I wanted to kind of assert something else and offer a space for the viewer to author something, like author their own magic. So it was kind of an exploration of form, water, and then this projected light, and then also activated by the viewer. There's several of these pieces. They have been used in performance. I got interested in cut surfaces and exploring optics, making lenses and distortion. Really embracing the influence of Italian glass, exploring cane working and disruption of cane. And later I was able to expand these ideas further when I went to grad school at Tyler. It was pretty exciting for me to have that chance to really be devoted totally to my work. And I got to deepen some of the questions I was already exploring and asking. So this project, the other project was thinking about light and projection and shadow, and this was sort of expanding on that. So I made these, they were handheld. So kind of, again, really, I've always been interested in the viewer, that actually the relationship of art is a conversation. It's an offering and an exchange. So I made these objects that you would hold and enter a space that was blasting you in the face with projection. And this tool was sort of something that could trap a little piece of that image, and you could witness it. So the imagery was water. Again, I'm interested in water because it's formless and it can't be contained necessarily. It can be gentle and soft or extremely violent, but be like, Bruce Lee, be like water, always finding a way through. So in that projection, I hid words amidst this projection, and you yourself could discover something just beyond your perception. So you could only see a slice of something, and you couldn't see the whole picture. But through moving beyond your own static space, you were able to see something more. And I think that I believe in that in many ways. Oh no, what is this? Okay. This project, at that time, I was really thinking a lot about and this experience of perspective. I think because I grew up in multiple worlds. I grew up, born in the US, but having this heritage and culture from another place, and always feeling this dissidence, this sort of split between two worlds. That is imagery from the 4th of July. But I always saw that as a bit of a deficiency, never quite being enough American, never quite being enough Palestinian Lebanese, not knowing my mother tongue, having the weird lunch at school, this sort of never quite knowing where I fit in the world. And then I came across this term called, this was like 2 years ago, I came across this term. So it's very recent. And I was like, oh, it's called third culture kids. And those are children who spent their formative years in places that are not their parents' homeland. And when I learned this, and it was offered that, in fact, this space of betweenness isn't a deficiency at all. It is actually a space of creation and imagination. It's a place where we blend and bring multiplicity together. And it's actually a place of power. And I think, it speaks to the origins of this country. This is a country of it is a melting pot, and with that blending comes incredible knowledge, diversity, innovation, and so actually that is such a gift to to be able to do that. So I also came across this quote around that time. This is by incredible thought leader, philosopher, writer, Edward Said, a distinguished professor at Columbia University, whose contributions through his writing, like Orientalism, really shaped how we understand the production of knowledge. He looks at the production of knowledge from the West, looking at the East. And so it has made ripples in our understanding of the world. But I'll share this quote. The more one is able to leave one's cultural home, the more easily is one able to judge it, and the whole world as well, with the spiritual detachment and generosity necessary for true vision. The more easily, too, does one assess oneself and alien cultures with the same combination of intimacy and distance. So again, I'll share Google Maps. It's like a part of the way that I think about this world at this point. Looking at another place and knowing that place through a mediated lens, that satellite. How do we know these places? We are looking at this cartography, and that is telling us something. On Google Maps, it locates Palestine here, but in fact, it is right here. And you can see this is the map of Palestine over the course of the last 70, well, it's really only until 2010. But Palestine is wildly diverse, has incredible, intersection of multiple religions and people. And, in 1946, a population of Jewish people and Palestinian people and many other people. As the state of Israel was established, Palestinians have lost more and more access to land. And with that, also personal autonomy, rights, resources, and freedom. My family is still there in Palestine. This is my aunt right here in the center and my cousin. These are all Palestinian thobes, which are, for those that love craft tradition, the tetris is an embroidery technique that is part of Palestinian tradition and tells our stories. Each thobe represents a place. It's all the different villages throughout. So they have different motifs. It's really incredible, and there's a lot of people making that right now if you're curious. My aunt does have a heritage center in Bethlehem where she holds and protects many of our objects, our craft objects, including glass, which has a deep history, as we know, mentioned in Palestine, and continues to this day, despite incredible challenges. Um, this is our family home, vibrant and full of life. But the Palestine that I grew up with was set in a certain frame. It was set in 1967 when my family immigrated to this country through forced migration. So my picture of Palestine was frozen in this sort of particular moment, yet the world continues around it. I really like that image for that reason. So in grad school, I decided that, I'm going to make a place for myself. Like, what does it mean to be local? So this project is called Local, and it involves building a home. I use this incredible resource, this book that historicized all these Palestinian homes and documented, again, another incredible craft tradition, these tiles, which are still made today, that yet there are fewer and fewer people. I think there's only like three, maybe two places that are producing these. But they're colored cement filled into these different sections and then constructing these incredible geometric floors. So I was moved by this and wanted to use this as a reference. So, what did I want in a home for myself? I made a library, I made a porch, I made a studio for myself. And I also invited my father to recall the tiles that were in his home growing up that he hasn't been able to return to for 40 years. So this is the tile outside of our porch. And this is the tile that he remembers to be in the main space of our house. All of these tiles are built with spices. Actually, they're all spices used in Palestinian cooking. So when you walk into the space, it's a really overwhelming sense of smell. This is cumin, turmeric, fennel. I made all of the vessels that are holding these and the screens that are just here below that I used to sift these tiles. I was able to show the work at Urban Glass, which was awesome. I also was interested in, making these window spaces. So I guess I think a little bit like about the door as a place of negotiating physical space, but the window, growing up, going to church, the windows were, we had all these incredible stained glass windows and they were places for stories or dreaming. And so I built these windows using a material from Pilkington, mirror view, which shows up a lot in my work. It's used in security and interrogation, also in kind of revealing screens behind a mirror. But I wanted to reimagine that material. But in it, it holds power. It holds a power dynamic because where the light is, according to the material, it either creates a shadow or reflection. So this is called Site of Perpetual Belonging, based on a Bruce Nauman sculpture. This is called Restaging Democratic Space, based on a light and sound festival held in Central Park in the early 19s. It was a festival welcoming immigrants to the US using these sort of illuminated lamp objects. Here it is at Urban Glass. It was, a lot of interaction. But my kind of commitment to showing that work was that no matter what happened, I was going to continue to lay tile. So in different spaces, I would return and it would be in different states. Some people wanted to make tile with me. Some people had some other ideas about making imagery or imposing their, sort of view. And then sometimes I would return and it would be gone. And that was a difficult piece for me. I think I didn't, it was really a question, an offering of like what happens, and maybe naive at this point. Um, what happens if I offer a space and how is that treated? Again, really centering the viewer and their own authorship. The next project, wow, I am long. The next project I made was a sort of armor, and also a speculative architecture proposal. I had this opportunity with Pilkington glass, which allowed me to dream at the scale of a city and reimagine a city. This is their factory. It's pretty cool. My proposal was called Body Building. And I wanted to make covert architecture that was flexible, clandestine, and subjective, as a matter of survival. Like, what happens if buildings could be maintained and then flex and change and then pop back up, despite outside circumstances? Also, it was made with Pilkington glass mirror, which reflects and obfuscates the subjects inside. I explored various approaches to form, laminating glass together with flexible joints. I taped things together. I mean, it was all over the place. I thought about what forms the body might take. Then I had to build it, which was a wild experience. I talked to 3M like on speed dial all the time. This is their tape, silicone tape. It's constructed by hundreds of triangles that have been gone through the kiln and distorted the surface. It also zips together, so it is attached, opens and closes. And then I built this thing with a lot of help as well. So this is the larger one is for a body or for a building, and this smaller one is for a body. I showed it at Urban Glass, where I had that solo show, which was really awesome. And because this object, in my mind, I think I don't understand stability or staticness. So taking it from that form and activating it. So this is counterbalanced. This is its lake formation, and it is counterbalanced by objects, just enough objects to, the question was really, how much do we need to stay afloat? Again, a little close up. This is the zipper and the emergency blankets that are also here. It's counterbalanced by objects made by my dear friend and incredible artist, Jessie Lee, who is my studio mate and just I'm a huge fan of. Other iterations. This is the show. I also brought the object out into the world and activated it sited in spaces throughout New York City. It became a part of a performance that was activated by these incredible improvisational dancers. I think the difference between sculpture or installation is that all the ideas are held simultaneously, but in movement, they are kind of narrativized through a certain storyline. And that was really exciting. What a gift to me to have that opportunity to work with these incredible people. And I'll share one last project. I'm sorry, I'm so long. Quickly, this is Watchers. Again, always considering the lens and how we perceive our world. I built this object. This is a telescope-like lens, solid glass, optical glass, on top of an aluminum piece that's holding it up, and then that sits on top of this water tower-like structure that is based on some images that I collect from my research. This is a watchtower, and this is the wall that separates the West Bank from, or Bethlehem from Jerusalem, the West Bank from Israel. Also, the water tower reference as well. These are homes that I found on Google Maps when I walk through the streets. I've been doing that for about 10 years now, taking screenshots. This home I found in 2019 and built it. It was constructed, but I made this piece in December 2022 and finished it in January 2023. And I built it in a way that was, in rubble. And at this point, I'm sure that it is. On that telescope lens, if, many people might know that if you sand glass, it can hold an image. And so I projected this walk I took with my father as we explored the streets of his family, the streets he grew up with.
المجموعة البابوية البيكجالية. This is for, yeah, okay. This is like the Pope's headquarters in Bejana. You remember, I've been there once since 1969. That's 31 years plus 22. 53 years, and I have been there once in that time. Well, I think the house I grew up in was built or finished in 1926 or 1927. And my grandfather built it. It's a beautiful house. The walls are like 3 feet wide. And built from solid stone. I really liked going up on the roof because if you look to the right, you have a clear view of Bethlehem, and if you look to the left, you also have a clear view of Jerusalem, and you just felt you're on top of the world. Oh.
There are many more projects, but I'll end there. So thank you so much.
Okay, I'll hop back on. I do see that we have had a couple of people have been raising their hands, but we have not set this webinar up for discussion in that way. So if you have a question, I'd be so grateful if you could put it in the Q&A tab. If you're having trouble locating the Q&A tab, perhaps it should be at the bottom of your Zoom window, but if you're not seeing it there, which occasionally I don't, you can click on the tab which says more. It's a circle with 3 dots in it, and that should allow you to pick the Q&A tab. So with that in mind, thank you very much, Kris, for your presentation. I think we're probably, we might go a few minutes over. So I do want to start with maybe the next place that people might be able to see you if they want to hear more about some other projects. So do you want to talk a little bit about before we talk about your work, the work that you in the residency you just completed? How about a little bit about the future work or the place that you're about to go and how people can see you there if they do in fact have to stop watching at the time we originally thought we'd stop?
Sure. I apologize for being a little long.
Not at all. It was fascinating. I don't think anybody minds. I want to make
Sorry.
sure people will know where
Um,
to find you next if they're eager for more.
Yeah, I am like really lucky to have another opportunity to make some glass specifically at Wheaton Arts, which is in New Jersey, and I'll be kind of continuing some of the things that I've been working on in this studio here at Utica. So I'm working on objects that hold tension, kind of these slingshots, which maybe I don't know if they're really in focus. I think if I go back here, does it focus?
No, you're going to have to
Um,
actually bring them up if you can, or put more focus on the, I think you've got the background blurred, so you'd have to take that out. There you
so
go.
I'm making some of these sort of tension-based objects that are I'm interested in casting them in glass and seeing embedding. Hopefully, the game plan is to embed some copper into the glass and cast some of these pieces, these sort of slingshot pieces.
Is there a reason for copper? Is that a material that you
Well, yes,
put in for
copper, there's
specific metaphorical reasons as well as perhaps the material itself?
I'm sure there could be metaphor, but really it's technical. It's compatible with glass, like silver, gold, and copper are all compatible with glass, but there are a few materials that are. So they have the same coefficient of expansion. So really interested in kind of combining some things and seeing what's possible with a mix of materials coming together.
And did you have opportunities to work? Are you working outside of glass blowing in your current or in the residency you just finished? I know you said you were in the metal studio, so I didn't know if that gave you an opportunity to work with hot glass or you were working on other things mostly.
Yeah, I guess the more I've pursued glass or been on this path with glass, it's such a rare resource to be able to use freely because there's so much cost associated with blowing. So residencies are just like gifts to artists because like what I got to do at Penland, I could never replicate that in my life in New York. Or in Ohio, that the costs are just really hard to manage, especially when you're doing experimental things. So residencies provide like such a opportunity to develop new things. So here at Utica, they have a wood shop and a metal shop. So I was doing things, I think once I left the institutions, you just kind of get scrappy and you do what you can do. And we have a kiln in our studio. So that's a huge, huge resource. We can cast glass and fire clay. But blowing is really a big challenge for, I think, a lot of people out here.
And we have some great questions in the Q&A, which I'm happy to get to. Did you want to show or talk about your mosaics at all? Because that was one thing
Oh,
that I was able to do sort of a little mini studio visit with Kris earlier, and I just
sure.
kind of really love them, though I know that you're just in the experimental phase. So if you're willing to share, um, I I want to see them again.
Okay, I'll do it. But warning, they are deeply experimental. So maybe I can just plop my screen on share again. Um, these are what is kind of behind me, and this is my first attempt at mosaic. I understood that the image I selected had so much detail and information that it was really, really hard to do in mosaic. So I had to come up with all these like alternative solutions. So this piece is like all the permissions. I'm giving myself all the permissions to sort of technically solve and understand this new process. But I love mosaic. I think I like architecture and I think my work deals in architectural spaces, but especially mosaic is sort of like a site for archiving. Um, and these images are all sourced from my walks throughout Palestine. So kind of capturing these images as the map continues to get updated with new information, or spaces continue to be removed from Google Maps. This is another image I found really compelling. And I'm making this. This is what I learned from that first one. I'm trying to apply to this. It might be a little blurry. I just took it from my cell phone, but components that are made in ceramic in combination with pieces that are porcelain and some glass pieces and just some straight up rocks. So just kind of, perverting the purity of this. I hope nobody's a mosaic purist out there. I'm insulting them.
I think they're really interesting. I loved the selection of different materials. There's all kinds of interesting histories and metaphors within every single one of them. So for me, it was really interesting to see the mosaics. Thanks for sharing that. I know it's not always easy to share things that aren't quite finished or are still kind of experimental. So very brave of you. Thank you. I am going to head over to the Q&A section because we've got some great questions over here. Here's one. Thank you so much, Kris. You mentioned as an aside that you don't understand stability, which is so clearly evidenced in the mutable and ephemeral nature of parts of your work. Are there any texts or other references that have been influential to the strategies and forms of your work?
Wow. God, what a good question. Yeah, I guess. I think maybe it came out of a worldview or an understanding of something, that everything being kind of temporal, and changing, and to assert something that, okay, I'm sorry for all the painters out there, assert something that's like a stable space or a painting, that's, though the world around it can change, it always remains the same, seemed just foreign to me in my understanding of what captivated me, even that little glass of water. And, also, I definitely meditate because I need to, and also kind of trying to hold the present moment, and be open to, changing, accepting the changes. And yeah, so I guess I'm sure I could have a better answer if I had a little bit more time to think about it. It's a great question.
No, I think that's really interesting. Like, you talked about stability and maybe instability as a difficult experience, or that's how I interpreted it when you were presenting your work around that. And I feel like your answer here also pointed out maybe some of the ways in which it can become a positive, or at least sort of way to accept the world.
I think that it is an effort, whatever we want and whatever we want to create. And we can't hold on to things, but we have to create them continuously. And I think that's what I learned from making my own work, is really to and to release and also continue to assert the things that are important. It's active.
Okay. I'm going to go down to Inga's question. Yeah, I won't be naming. Sorry, Inga, I didn't mean to call you out. It's great to see a craft artist with a strong conceptual underpinning. When you start a project, are you driven initially by the concept or the material, or do they both evolve together?
Wow. I've been thinking a lot about this because, this award and centers so much craft. And I think by developing a language in craft so deeply and understanding its nuance and its potentials and limitations, the ideas are also developing with it. And that, for me, they're inseparable. It's not that the technique, it's opening windows into understanding the other things I'm thinking about. So I think it's both for me. I think they are evolving in tandem, but I do a lot of research. I mean, just the way that I like to think about things expansively. I like have like slideshows with like hundreds of slides that I think might relate to this project, you know, and so it's just these conglomerations of information and then, you know, trying to stick it all together.
Not to follow up that with a really tricky question, but I do often ask glass artists, especially glass artists who are working really experimentally and in ways that glass doesn't always allow them to, isn't always the easiest material to work with. Would the piece be the same? Would some of the pieces that you've done be the same if you were using plastic or a different material that was not glass? For example, I'm thinking of the stencils for the tiles in your installation at Urban Glass that had to do with ceramic tile floors, or in fact, the sort of movable architecture slash covering that you wore. Could you have done either of those in a different material? And would it have been the same as a piece, or did it have to be glass?
Um, hmm. I think I'm a material elitist. Sorry. Um, I also think that material is sourced and it comes from a place, you know, like glass is sand
Mhm.
and fire. And I think that it's located, you know, it's in a way that I think plastics, um, you know, if they really are useful, great. And if it's the solution, then fine. But I think, you know, the material itself like holds information in it. It's embedded in the thing. Like that mirror view, like that, all of those ideas around split imagery came because of the materiality of that thing itself and how it's used in the world and its reference to how it's, you know, its actual usage. So I really, I mean, I'll use plastic, I guess, but if I can use glass, I'm going to use it.
Okay. Another Q&A from the audience. Can you talk a little bit about karaoke and its recent influences on your work? I suspect this is a person who knows you and knows some of your recent work. Is there a level of vulnerability you are trying to address? And would you sing for us? No, you did not ask that.
Nobody really wants to hear that, but in fact, I do sing in these recent videos that I'm working on. Yes, deeply vulnerable. I have a terrible singing voice. I think anybody who knows me could agree. But I'm working on I'm interested in the structure of karaoke because it's an invitation to participate, and it's you know, it's kind of jovial and low stakes and you know, it's familiar. And I'm working on a few videos associated with this sort of karaoke sing along, one being Aladdin's I Can Show You the World, which involves, you know, a green screen and myself lying on a little carpet and singing as I lie down, and it's kind of an aerial shot, and I'm floating over Gaza, and I have for many years, you know, traveled there via Google Maps and captured imagery. In about now, probably 10 days ago, Google Maps updated the representation, you know, sort of the global representation of Gaza from the Google Map view. And, you know, it's now 2024, so you can actually go and visit if you're interested. There's a section where you can see historically what has occurred. You can see what Gaza looked like before 2023. And you can see it now to 2024, which is an even current So that is included in the video, but I wanted to make something that was approachable and familiar, maybe part of our, my generation's view. I was young when I saw that, and it shaped something, even as somebody that's growing up Arab, like, oh, this is a place, and it
You're
shaped
young when
something.
you
It was,
saw Aladdin?
yeah,
Okay.
that movie.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to, use that familiarity and offer another thing, and also myself as a terrible singer, because I think there's something vulnerable, and I think that's what we need right now.
Um, and then I have a great question. We have a couple of questions about the future, so I'm gonna take these last two questions,
Okay.
and we'll finish with these. Um, are there other materials, processes that you haven't worked in yet that you hope to?
I mean, I'd love to cast metal. I think that's, so cool. Um, and yeah, I mean, there's so many similarities from glass casting, but metal is really exciting in a different way. And now I just learned how to weld. So, constructing it, I don't know, also at scale, it's very exciting. Um, and I guess, um, hmm, that's the most immediate material that I can think of.
Or processes even outside of craft that you're
Oh,
interested in?
processes. Well, when I was here in Utica, I was considering getting a singing teacher.
So you'd be a little less vulnerable in those karaoke moments, but
Yeah. It's an important process.
it is, it is. And then I'll end on this, which I think is uh, a great way to end. Do you have an ultimate goal in your career as a craft artist? A dream project or a place to exhibit or anything that you'd like to work on?
Wow, that is a really generous question. Thank you to whoever gave that. I think I'm practicing this year, like really going for what I want. And having a taste of being like an artist full time, being able to do these residencies, man, I really want to be a full-time artist, um, like so badly. And with that, I love my work. I think my work, um, I would love to have an exhibition in a museum space. Uh, you know, I, I, I think institutions are really a great place for my work to be seated. I'm not learning a lot about the commercial market as I live in New York. But I like my work to be a part of an archive, and collected by institutions. If I'm saying,
Dream big,
my
do
little
it.
dream
Yeah.
aloud.
That's great. Um,
Um,
well, thank you. Thank you very much for sharing with us. If there's anything that you feel like you weren't able to touch on or that you want to say, I'll give you that opportunity. I just wanted to point out that we did put Chris's website in the chat, and you can also just Google her name, honestly, and it will come up. So you can find out more. And do you have like a mailing list or an opportunity for people to contact you or sign up for more information about things like your residency?
um, that is a great next
I
step.
didn't mean to put you on the spot with this. I really didn't. I just
But
wanted
you can reach
people
me
to
via
know.
my website. You can reach me via my website, or I'm happy to share my email, or we could put it in the chat. I would love to keep in touch with folks. And also, I did want to share that, as many people love craft, and I want to share some incredible craft that is coming out of Palestine at Hilloway Market, HILWEH market.com. This is a place where you can, access some of the incredible craft tradition that comes out of Palestine, and in fact, some glass objects. I have, with my NAR collective, have had the opportunity to work with a glassmaker on the ground in Palestine, in Hebron, or El Khalil, who is a third generation glassmaker, and he sells his work through that site.
And we put the link in the chat for people who didn't catch the spelling. Yeah.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Was that it? Did we get everything? I know there's so
Yeah,
much
just
more.
a big thank you, and thanks for those that stuck around for my exceptionally long-windedness.
I think just about everybody did. I think they were excited to hear all about your work. I appreciate the opportunity to get to know you better. Yeah, I look forward to seeing what happens next.